Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, April 16th, and we've got some Challenger friends, watch and learns, a lot of these really nice daily quests that I guess they didn't really change anything there. On the Asian account, for the moment, I suppose I'm going to have to try and find somebody that would actually accept a friend request, which is kind of ridiculously low odds. I've been trying kind of for 2 days, often not. I tried once the past couple days, to be honest. Meanwhile, need to play warrior, win a single game with paladin and priest, and play warrior class cards. That shouldn't be too hard. Let's see, we've got this combo priest, rank 23. Let's try and play. So I had that disaster that happens probably every 3 to 6 months to a year. I filled up my hard drive making content playing Darksiders 2, which I am finished with the main story of Darksiders 2, but there are 3, I'm hoping, just extra dungeons that are DLC additional content. I feel like maybe the Definitive Edition remaster made the game a little bit harder to level up, because I ended the game at rank 22 and there's a theoretical max level of rank 60. And I don't feel like many people are going to want to play Darksiders 3 times. Let's be honest. I actually know for a fact many people aren't going to want to play it 3 times, because less than 10% of the people who own the Definitive Edition even finished it the first time. And that's really, really low numbers, even when you're considering that a significant portion of players don't finish video games and only see the first third of it. 10% still is an incredibly low amount. Now, of course, the Definitive Edition, I believe, was given for free to everybody who owned the original version, so it's very possible that some large percentage of people played the original version 2 or 3 times over the years, and they didn't want to play it a 4th or 5th time in the Definitive Edition. The game is a mess for poor story writing that doesn't really accomplish anything. It's a mess for really bad decisions that are made. Let's see, let's just go ahead and hit this, and then heal this, and hit this, and then hit this, and then end the turn. Like, there's really no characterization of Death, who is the main character in the game. The Forge Lands is the first act of what is probably 5 pretty long acts in the game. There's a ton of extra things that I think are added by the fact that I have a Definitive Edition with DLC now instead of the original edition. I'm almost 100% certain I didn't do any of the additional content, but there's also items I'm sure that weren't there when I originally played the game, and potentially even dungeons that may have not been there. Let me think about that. Actually, I guess there probably aren't any dungeons in the game that were added extra, but there were definitely items and quests that came up. So let's hit this. And then attack some more. Think I'm gonna win. And so, because I filled up my hard drive, though, like, the absolute worst video to lose was lost, although it wasn't actually too bad. I lost the video where I beat the game and looked at the credits and barely did anything else. Wow, he's gonna use this healing rain against me. You think that's gonna save you? Silence my own guy as protection. If I had gotten 2 more hits on him. So there's our victory. That's cool. I'm thinking about taking maybe a little bit of a break, just because I need to upload so many things anyways. But taking a break in, so what's our other quest now? We need to friend everybody we play with and see if they'll accept. And I need to play warrior cards. Can I play a warrior card deck, or should I just build a warrior card deck? I think I probably should do both. Apparently Hearthstone Deck Tracker and hsreplay.net may still be working on things, so I might find that a lot of these decks that they recommended are going to work a little bit better. I might get some different recommendations. Let's see. Guess I'll take that. And I'll take Brawl. And I'll take that. So Rush Warrior, as best as I can do it for the moment. Now works. But it is easier just to make a warrior deck. Just 30 cards of the cheapest warrior style cards. Theoretically, I would only have 1 slot open to make a deck like this for all 9 of the hero classes. But right now I've got plenty of slots open, so I don't need to worry about that. Didn't accept a friend request, and see, I could like watch this rank 3 player, but half of them won't accept friend requests when they're that high up. Might as well play ranked while we're doing this. So yeah, I having not a ton of extra space, this is also like the 6th or 7th time I've installed Borderlands 2 and uninstalled it for space. I don't think we'll go into a post show today, if that was even necessary. So I don't think that's going to be too necessary. If we get the daily quest done and I have some news left, I'll probably just hold it on till Wednesday. It's a little lucky I even started streaming at the right time. 4:30 is my traditional time. I guess maybe my rules say a little bit different than that nowadays. Yeah, I was up all night playing the stupid Darksiders 2. I still feel like I'm over 30 hours into the game that feels like it should have been a 10-hour game. Darksiders 1, like, it's kind of crazy. Like, I felt like Darksiders 1 may have been a 7 to maybe 12-hour game, and Darksiders 2 is a 30-hour game, and I would have much preferred it to have been a 7-hour game. I also wish that they had done more with the character Lilith, who shows up for one cutscene and then is kind of killed off at the end of the game, it seems. And so you have like 2 scenes with her in the game for no real reason other than clearly one of the 5 companies that they subcontracted to animate characters had a fetish for drawing strong, tall, muscular women, which I really don't have a problem with it. I just wish they would do more characterization. You have Uriel show up for one small section, and that's not as good as it should have been, and you have the shaman lady that could have played a much bigger role in the game, and she doesn't do it. To be fair, while the female characters in Darksiders 2 are overly drawn and focused on in their stance and provocative stance and such, the male characters are the exact opposite because they are completely forgotten. Like, uninteresting male characters for the most part. They're all big and muscular too, except for the Crowfather. And I didn't like the character of the Crowfather, and he's like the main character that the game is supposed to have. Way too many characters that could have been merged together into singular people. And that would have helped the story. A much better story would have helped the game a lot. But the loot element, the cheap World of Warcraft ripoff element, the production mistakes, the splitting development between at least a dozen different companies was the issue. It feels like there's easily 2 games of Darksiders 2, but neither one of them are that great. Let's see. Just go ahead and transform that. Okay, let's start covering the news because there's really only so much complaining I can do about Darksiders 2. It's pretty bad. It's really, really bad, and I'm hoping I have enough energy to maybe I'll power through the extra dungeons and the additional content, then take a break and have and record something completely different, then come back and play Borderlands 2, which then in comparison Borderlands 2 will definitely blow away Darksiders 2 out of the water. The glitchiness of Darksiders 2 too, like the definitive edition did not need to be released at all, and it definitely didn't need to be released in such a buggy, crashy system. Audio cuts out, game crashes when you alt tab, game sometimes locks up, lighting glitches all over the place in some areas. Yeah, just a total lack of polish. But let's go on to the news. PC Gamer has an article. Update: Blizzard is taking feedback about whether to change Hearthstone's bonkers Shudder Walk combo. It's, at the very least, the absurdly long animation has to go. So there's a tweet here. We're reading more feedback over the weekend and we'll revisit the Shudder Walk early next week. Checking out both animation timings and feedback on the deck playstyle itself. Let us know what you think and enjoy Witchwood. That's a interesting sentence at the end. Let us know what you think and enjoy Witchwood. What if you don't enjoy Witchwood, but you want to let them know what you think? Here they're talking about that deck Q block that someone was asking about, somewhat. So that's 13 of 30. Let's challenge this guy. Now, what I do on my accounts is if somebody rejects a challenge when it's a watch and learn, I defriend them. Like, that's just how it goes. However, it's not unheard of for people to be in the menu and just be AFK. And so this is bad content now as we're trying to get this guy on the Asian account to play me. And see, he just disconnected and disappeared. And that's like the second time he's done that too. Because he did that yesterday also. And that's not helpful. That is not helpful at all. See if we can maybe request this guy. Like, these Asian people, they just won't accept. It's crazy. Like, they know they're gonna get something and they just won't do it. And I don't mean Asian people as in all Asian people or all Asian Hearthstone players. I mean people that are playing on the Asian account. So I don't think either one of these are gonna go to the menu. Let's play standard again. The thing about the Shutterwalk, which is, I suppose, supposed to be the Jabberwocky from Alice in Wonderland, just by a different name. Although, if you were going to make a silly portmanteau of Jabberwocky, you wouldn't call it the Shutterwalk, you would call it like the Jibberwocky or something. Or Gibberunny, something like that. Oh, I'm burying the lead though. There was a huge realization in technology. Video games are old-fashioned now due to this new mod that it has come out, and I tweeted it out on my Twitter. So like, I can't really do anything with it on YouTube. Somebody made a nude mod for Hearthstone. So at least the Witchwood cards, if not all the female character cards in the game, which, you know, there ain't a ton of them, have now been have been redrawn through this mod to be naked, or at least showing a little bit more skin. Pretty much they're all naked, including some of the female hero replacements like Liana, who they just came out. So yeah, of all the games I expected that something like that might come about, this was not one of those games. You see a lot of nude mods on Japanese RPGs. You see a lot of nude mods on visual novels and sex games. Like, any sex game sold on Steam probably has a nude mod out there. You see nude mods for Fallout and easily customizable gameplay games where you could role play in them, and where the graphics also look kind of good. But I wasn't expecting that for Hearthstone. And that really sadly just goes back to the issue of, as long as I'm making content, I could never cover that. Like, I couldn't do it on YouTube. Although something did happen on YouTube that was sort of surprising, but I imagine it's not as groundbreaking as I would like it to be. A famous YouTuber who is kind of known for being an edgelord and doing edgy things got 3 different strikes on 3 different of his channels for doing 3 different things, all of which were kind of pushing it, but probably didn't deserve a community guideline strike. And then he disputed them, and then they all got confirmed, and then he tweeted out at Team YouTube and got all of his fans, which he has quite a lot of fans, to ask Team YouTube. And then as soon as they saw that he was famous, they took away the strikes, which is inherently the Logan Paul treatment. And that is part of the problem with YouTube, is that even a moderately successful person is getting treated better on YouTube than the random average small-time YouTuber. That's kind of their MO now, is that they intend to treat anybody who is better, who has more views, better than anybody who doesn't. That's really what the demonetization came down to, is that we don't want to pay small YouTubers. We don't want to invest in our future. And even if somebody like Logan Paul is doing something either completely wrong or at least slightly questionable, they're gonna kowtow to celebrity. And that's what it seems like Susan Wojcicki does all the time. So it's really no surprise that that's how she runs YouTube. So make sure you follow my Twitter if you want to see a couple comments. There's not a ton of Twitter only comments or things, but they never gave me the ability to put out messages to my fans. Like, they just never unlocked that ability. So there's no way to, within the YouTube system, send out a message without recording a video and sending that out. And who knows who even sees those videos. See, this guy's searching for an opponent, which means he won't be available. Yep. He just got in the game. So yeah, I would recommend following me on Twitter. I think I finally figured out what was happening on my Twitter account with the double posts, so we'll see if that still happens. Apparently, I had 2 different Facebook things, and one Facebook thing was taking things that the other Facebook thing was putting on Facebook and bringing it back to Twitter, which doesn't really seem like that should be possible. A little bit better intelligence and programming should have happened, but whatever. So like a Twitter tweet would get through one app put on Facebook, and then the other app would say, hey, there's a new tweet on Facebook, let's put it on Twitter too. And they'd give no indication that that's what was happening. At least that's what I think was happening. We'll see if that is fixed. PC Gamer has an article. There's a free exploration game called Mary's Room. M-A-R-I-E. Is that how you pronounce that spelling? I guess it's Mary. You wouldn't call that Maria. It's like a bite of Edith Finch. So this is another one of those articles really just to talk about a game that the video game mainstream media is obsessed with. What Remains of Edith Finch, which from all what I hear from all the mainstream media is really good, but it's past its prime. It's won awards. It's had its Game of the Year chance. Meanwhile, I guess this game is rated, Mary's Room is rated overwhelmingly positive, 95% of 616 reviews. It came out April 13th, and so I will put it on my put it on my account, I suppose. I tried to go through my wish list on Steam. I don't know how much work I can really do on there. It's a really long list. Compared to the daily games that we've started looking at that come out on Steam, what I have wishlisted is a lot higher quality stuff. And that is a consideration before I wishlist anything, is this as good as, say, the Kane and Lynch series, which I haven't played and would have a lot more historical impact than me playing some random indie game that shouldn't have even been allowed on Steam in the first place. Although I may get more views playing random indie games that nobody's heard of than playing really old games, because most of my channel is retrospectives and playing old games, and most of my channel does not pull in very many views. And speaking of that, please subscribe and click that notification bell, because that is my new plan in the cycle of plans to try to see if anything would improve my YouTube channel. Let's see, we'll do this, and then this, and then this, and then in the turn. We have a game on Steam called Rockochet, R-O-C-K-O-C-H-E-T. No, it's like Rocochet, and it needs a VR, and it's a MS Paint animated looking, well, I mean, some of it doesn't look like MS Paint, but then the trailer did. Actually, no, none of it looks like MS Paint, so why did the trailer look that way? It looks like it's probably asset flips, if I was to guess, for VR. How much do they want for this early access game? $19.99, no discount, for a Ricochet based, like Arconoid sort of type game. So let's go and close that, move on. Bandai Namco trademark Xenosaga episode 3, subtitle also Sprach Zathorza. Also Sprach Zathorza is a reference to a Nietzsche book, thus sprach Zathorza, which it was originally in German. I tried to listen to that book on audio, and it seemed like it was making some, it was more of a political book that loses so much of its importance when it's out of context, and it was not what I expected at all. But here, in the case of a Japanese game, they're just using the name because Japanese have a little bit of fetish for all things German, while overlooking the fact about the whole Nazi World War II thing. Looking at the screenshot, Xenosaga episode 3 looks like it's going to look like all the other Xenosaga, and it'll probably come to the Switch like the other ones. How quickly it came and went. There was this anti-harassment campaign called Bully Hunters that was run by a women's rights organization, the NWO, not the wrestling organization. At least partly funded by that, and also partly funded by a like Steel Series, I believe, headphones. And they started talking about this Bully Hunters in this initiative, and then they put out this video that was incredibly, obviously, yeah, SteelSeries headphones. Uh, Vertigear was also involved in it. Uh, the thing, like, it was incredibly obviously scripted, but pretended like it was live, or at least portmanting to be live. The idea is a kind of crazy idea of, if somebody thinks that they're being bullied or harassed in a video game, specifically Counter-Strike Go, this groups of pro Counter-Strike Go females, which honestly, if there are groups of Counter-Strike Go females, they should be forming teams and playing in the leagues, and that would do a lot better for representing the female gender instead of doing this. But instead, that they were in hoodies hiding their identity. One person said they were pretty sure at least one of them was male, and they were asking people to sign up. So you could be a male bully hunter, which I guess is fine. I guess there's a slight problem in the beginning of this, is because it's played off like it's anti-harassment and anti-bullying, but really it's only about caring about whether females in games get bullied or harassed, instead of all the other people that are potentially getting bullied and harassed. And somebody running in and killing somebody, potentially even team killing somebody one time, and then posting a message that harassment is in the game, bullyhunters.com, was just like, it was tone deaf, it was crazy. It's another one of these instances of a extreme third wave feminist, I imagine, trying to infiltrate into video games and immediately change what video games are. What I found was very strange about all this is how many people fervently said that trash talk and banter is part of playing online games. As somebody who doesn't play online games at all, it didn't even really register in my brain as that is part of the game. So I came from a position looking at the bully hunters going, yeah, maybe there's something here. But this certainly wasn't the solution. And because of that, and because everybody's criticizing it from every side, and because it seems like the bully hunter was also playing as the bullied person in the staged video, the whole movement has been shut down. It was being hosted by Zombie Unicorn on Twitch, and she's got like a statement. It's almost kind of like it's almost a 100% manufactured controversy by the organizations. Apparently this was run by marketing agency FCB Chicago, which launched the program and told Polygon that it's over. Polygon and Kotaku, full of SJWs, and even they couldn't really couldn't even really back this. The thing is, Counter-Strike Go, Valve has flag ability and ability to turn off the chat, I'm pretty sure. So if you're being harassed, you can turn off the chat. Worst case scenario, you can leave the game. go to a different server, or perhaps leave the game completely. This is a very different experience from being bullied at a workplace when somebody actually has some power over you, or being bullied at a school where somebody either has power over you or has the ability to lock you into being in the same place as them. Because if somebody's bullying you at school, you can't really stop going to school, or that's going to hurt you even worse. Or if you're being bullied by the teachers, that's an issue too. Interesting statistic, 25% of all employees have self-reported being bullied in a workplace. And typically, it is the people who are best at their jobs that are getting bullied by people who are insecure about their skills at a job. That probably is also the case in true instances of harassment and bullying on the video games. Some people define harassment and bullying as slightly different. Like, there might be some people were defining harassment more as something that would happen once, where bullying is an intentional, hurtful plot. It really divides it. They were dividing it between, did you intentionally try to say hurtful comments to hurt them mentally forever, or were you simply just trying to set them off on their get them off their game a little bit and trash talk. Really surprised how many people like the trash talk. I think that's part of the game. And so it would be really funny, I guess, to see how many people would leave a game that was a first-person shooter if you couldn't communicate with each other. And how many people would replace that. Like, can you talk to other people on Overwatch? Because I know in Hearthstone you really can't do too much trash talking. All you can do is, like, well played, well played, well played. And even that can be squelched pretty easily. The most insulting comment I've ever gotten in years of playing Hearthstone is I sent somebody a friend request, they accepted the friend request, and then they typed, nobody wants to friend you. And I'm like, well, you just friended me to say that. That's pretty stupid. There probably is a way you could do an anti-bullying campaign, but it's not going to do much. It's not like the anti-smoking campaigns. It's much closer to the anti-drug campaigns that increase it. When you look at the statistics, and I'm not going to quote any numbers because I'll get them wrong, a large percentage of people who have been bullied also turn around and bully other people. It's kind of just what happens in elementary school and high school, middle school. Not so much on late years of high school, and you're a pretty big loser if you hadn't grown out of that level of immaturity by the time you get into college. But yeah, people who are bullied become the bullies. They try it out, at least every now and then. Bully hunters kind of is an idea of bullying somebody who is accused with really no evidence, when the better, more appropriate system would be just to flag that person, to mute that person, just have the person who is being who feels like they're being bullied handle it themselves and deal with it themselves. You're not really empowering anybody by saying you have to call for help, that you're playing the damsel in distress in the video game you're playing still. Like, you have the tools in Counter-Strike Go. Maybe there are some games out there where you don't have the tools, but then just don't play those games. You can always turn off your internet. You can always turn off your computer. If it went into the real world, you should call the police, certainly, and report it. But the control is in the hands of the person who feels like they're being bullied. Not, we don't need some other Antifa type group that's going to counter protest every alt-right group march like we have here, because that leads to the situation where Antifa is antagonizing the other group, which is already ready to fight, into a fight, and it doesn't look good for either side, because there's been no dialogue and no learning. It's just bad scenarios completely. So that's one. The other thing I need to do is just defeat 3 dungeon run bosses, which will be more than easy to do. Let's see. I tweeted out a picture, by the way, of that golden legendary to Hearthstone. They didn't respond at all. And then I've tweeted to Jessica Chobot because she posted something about the missed Linking Book Collector's Edition, and she said it had an LED screen on it. I'm pretty sure it has an LCD screen on it, because I doubt you could get a 5-inch or so LED screen. Alright, so I just have to kind of play anything and get 3 victories. The other problem with trying to stop bullying is it kind of just propagates itself completely. The best thing you can do is, in schools, have every year in its own separate group. So if there's a really big problem with bullying in the class of 2000 kindergarten class, you can try to isolate and adjust the attitudes and actions of that class without it spreading to the class of like the class of 2000 first grade class or second grade class. More likely, if there was any bullying, it'd probably be the class of 2000 sixth grade class doing it to the 5th graders and passing it backwards down the line for all eternity, which is kind of how bullying happens, to the extent where there are a lot of immature attitudes in parents where they are at home bullying their kids and teaching their kids to be bullies and expecting their kids to be bullied and wanting even their kids to be bullied just because they didn't have a good time when they were a kid, and they can't look past that for an improvement or greater good of society. There's another part here where one of the person's past tweets was brought up as being like homophobic, and harassment is just another phrase of that toxicity. Like every week now, particularly PC Gamer is saying that all video games, or they're at least sending that message that all video games are toxic and all video game players are toxic, and they're just going to use that buzzword forever to label the true fans of games as other, while trying to infiltrate and take over video games, making them worse throughout the entire process. Let's see. We'll go ahead and take this and just play. There is also this story on Gematsu, and I'm having to put on the tinfoil hat on this story that's sort of related. It is claimed to be harassment. Apparently, according to, I believe, Polygon, the professional gamers, people who are video game fans in South Korea, and you know they take those games seriously, like real seriously. They are monitoring all the employees of South Korean video game developers Twitter, going back in their past, and if any of them, anybody who had worked in a video game company, particularly the female ones, but I imagine the male ones too, they're contacting the employer and saying this person needs to be fired because they have views that we don't agree with, and we feel like I assume that's their point, is that they don't want people, they don't want SJWs in the South Korean video game development scene. And on the face of it, it sounds awful, but on the other side, it might really just be the solution. Like, if video gamers in the West said, we don't want Anita Sarkeesian to get any money ever again, which a lot of people do say that and try to cancel her hugely overpriced speeches, and they do it probably in some bad and illegal ways, but like making bomb threats and such. But if you're systematically trying to influence people who would be funding Anita Sarkeesian so they wouldn't fund her, then we probably wouldn't still be talking and hearing about Anita Sarkeesian, which would be a good thing, honestly. So yeah, it seems draconian, it seems crazy, but the way that story on Gematsu is written, it's like the South Korean gamers, the actual fans, the actual people who spend the money, are the bad guys, and it seems like there's really no thought whatsoever given to maybe somebody should scrub their Twitter account, or at the very beginning, honestly, you shouldn't say anything online ever if you want to work in any job, because it's gonna irritate somebody eventually. Let's see, can I get a charge? No, I don't even think charge is one of them. So, yep. I've lost. That's alright, we'll try again. Like, I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything, but tinfoil hat, maybe. We know in the West there are video game creators that are posting crazy things and doing crazy things that in the long run has hurt the video game industry. So maybe if there was some better hiring practices and some better vetting, and if the vetting has to actually come from the video game players themselves, maybe that's what society needs. All rule, all order, all law is supposedly supposed to be a somewhat group consensus of society. So if all of South Korea says we don't want any female employees in video games at all, that's their culture. You can't really argue against it. That's what they want. That's what they agree to. That is certainly what we had in the United States for at least the first 100 years. Is women didn't have the right to vote. Women didn't count. Couldn't have jobs except for very simple waitress type jobs. And as attitudes changed, we changed that, but as attitudes are now changing the other direction because of the insanity of SJWs and just how to the extreme and how much of a man-hating group a lot of feminists feel like they are, it's hard to support them. Like, every day when I hear some new thing an SJW does, it pushes me further and further to being a conservative, which is insane because I'm super liberal, like, and they're too liberal for me. Like, let's see, do we have anything else on the bullying and harassment? Because that's pretty much been this entire episode. Last I heard, South Koreans kind of had a reverence for women, so, but I mean, that certainly can implement itself in different ways. It is also, I suppose, worth mentioning that that a significant amount of the mobile games that come out in South Korea have a decent amount of cheesecake showing, a lot of skin showing in all of the little card games and little mobile RPGs, and that's what a good portion of the players want and like. So if we saw South Korea go like the West, artists, actual artists who paint the actual pictures, are going to lose their jobs and lose their freedom. And as a big fan of artists, programmers, creators, music makers, animators, having freedom and being able to do what they want to do, having the continuances of SJWs trying to take over and control video games doesn't sound like a good thing for that country. Like, it leads to what Catholicism did to the world, effectively. Like, the world is very, very similar, particularly in countries were heavily Catholic or are still heavily Catholic. The rules come down from the Pope, the attitudes come down from the Pope, and they are pretty much the same in every country. Which is not a good way to get new ideas. Like, Lollipop Chainsaw, great example of a crazy game. I would be very upset if that game never existed. I never for a second thought I needed a game like that in my life, because it's so crazy. I don't think anybody would have thought about doing something like that. But when it came out, it was a lot more interesting than your standard first-person shooter game. Speaking of first-person shooters, Cliff Bleszinski is complaining that Epic is hiring his employees away from him. I wouldn't be surprised if this is moderately true, because I bet working for Cliff Bleszinski isn't a smart move or a great career choice. I bet he's completely and totally a pain to work with. Although, to be fair, I would say Cliff Bleszinski is probably more of a bro gamer than most game creators these days, and you see that in the Gears of War games he made, and you see that in Radical Heights a little bit too. And I wouldn't want to see him completely stopped from making games, but I would. I mean, he's already been stopped once, I believe, from making games just by getting kind of pushed into retirement. But then again, I also have to excuse me. You have to balance that out with the fact that his games aren't as successful as a standard game because they kind of are a niche. the bro gamer idea is kind of a niche as much as horror games are a niche. Next story we have from Rock Paper Shotgun. Ys 8 has a troubled PC port that's finally out after months of being delayed, but there's a lot of reports of bugs. It was 6 months delayed, first to completely retranslate, then to deal with a rising tide of technical issues, and finally to make it launch, according to his comment. Let's see. So that's kind of a shame. I guess if I was going to play the Ys game, though, I really don't have any reason to play Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana first. I could work my way through the rest of them and wait for a patch. Like right now, the game is mostly negative, with 33% of 67 users rating it positive, and it came out the 16th. Yep. So this looks like an unacceptable PC port if I've ever heard one. So I really am going to have to ask people to, if they are going to give me a game on my Steam list, you're going to have to make your best judgment on things. Like, is the game that's on this wish list in some way interesting? Is it rated mostly negative? Does it look awful to you? If that's the case, you probably shouldn't buy it just because it's on the list. I very possibly put games on when they were brand new, and then more people came in and confirmed that they were bad. At some point, I'm going to have to figure out a system to deal with the wish list, to go through it and take some things off that are probably not worth owning. I put everything on the follow list into the wish list, since the wish list now works a little bit differently. It stops making sense to follow games at all. It's harder to use the follow list and doesn't really work. So yeah, what was the one new card? Then we got another one of those. So we're doing really good. I kind of need to hurry up with the news. Like, we're going to go over to the Americas account. Tragic Master said good luck on the pack. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description pack. When you subscribe, please click the notification bell. If you want to support me even further, give me a game on Steam. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.